Anthony Chen, and I'm a film director from Singapore, and I'm here with my new film, The Breaking Eyes, and Hiver et Yanji. Did I pronounce it correctly in French?
Yes.
This film is set in China, in the north of China in winter, and it's about three young people who are lost in their lives and how they meet one another and bond with each other and find warmth and solace over a very cold, short few days in the deepest of winter. I think this film was very much inspired by a lot of the articles that I read about young people, about the young generation in China and also everywhere else in the world, in Europe, in the States, in Britain, and I was reading a lot about their anxiety. I was reading a lot about their struggles and that feeling of feeling lost and stuck. And this feels like a generation that feels let down, by the previous generation, by the establishment, by the government, by society. And apart from articles, I started to read a lot of blogs. I started to watch a lot of vlogs as well, and you realize that even though there were different pressures and there are different issues that people were struggling with, but there was this collective melancholy. And this is what I wanted to capture in the film, and I was reading so much about mental health. I think it's really becoming a real issue in very modern society. I think I'm not sure if growing up with the internet is a good idea. I'm not sure, growing up or, living in a world where we're bombarded by so many devices and so much non-stop, excessive information is a good idea. I feel like in this day and age, you have no time to process your emotion. There's no time to, even think about and contemplate and really deal with it, and then the next thing comes along. And that's what I wanted to do in this film. I wanted to capture, this emotion, this melancholia, this feeling through these three young people. It's very interesting. I didn't try and, it wasn't like I was purposefully sort of looking to, create this tension between tradition and modernity. But I think that is very much coming out of, what I'm exploring with this film. That's what this generation is dealing with. When you make a film about young people, that's what they're constantly struggling with. They're struggling with, the old ways of society, the old ways of how things are done, and finding a new way out. And I think that very much came from what I was capturing. In the same way, it feels like that what you're watching is, these three young people who are lost in their lives. They're on a journey, right? They're searching for a way out, but behind the camera is also my journey as a filmmaker. Especially during the pandemic, I felt so lost and stuck, and I was trying to find a new way out. And in a way, it's also my own struggle with how I used to do things, tradition, and also finding a new idea. That I think really comes because of what I was exploring with this film. It's interesting, you know, like when I discovered this mountain called the Changpai Mountain, you know, and I decided I want to shoot there, I was looking around, you know, and I took so many photographs, and there were so many photographs that I took that for me felt like traditional Chinese paintings.
Yes.
When you look at Chinese paintings, you know, for people that are familiar with it, it's usually monochromatic. You know, it's usually black and white. Sometimes there's some color. And when I went there, I was like, oh my god, my photographs look like paintings. And so I got the production designer, the art director, to go and look for all the paintings that were drawn of this mountain, you know, through the years, and we compiled it into this book. And I wrote this scene where, you know, Hao Feng, you know, one of the guys, you know, the one wearing the glasses, yes, discovers this book and is mesmerized by it. And I wanted to actually bring these paintings to life through my camera. But it wasn't like we had to, you know, like figure out a way of making it look like a painting. It was like that already. You know, maybe I just needed to, you know, push sort of like the contrast and the saturation a little bit, and that was it. But actually for me it was quite a discovery. You know, I didn't realize that there could be spaces where it just feels exactly like how I would see a painting, you know, like in a gallery. And I set about doing that, and it was a very interesting process, you know, working with my DP. I made a decision to shoot, I think most of the film we shot handheld. She's very, very sensitive in terms of her handheld camera work. And also, I gave her a challenge, you know, I said, we're gonna try and shoot this film on one lens. You know, we did different tests. We did a test with the 35mm, the 50, and eventually we shot it on a 40mm on one lens. And it's very, not that it's not been done before, you know, a lot of great directors have done it before, but usually on a film you would change lenses, right? You go, you know, if you want to go wider, you go to 12 to 18, and then, you know, you might go to a longer lens for other shots. But for this film, we decided instead of changing the lens, we're going to keep to one lens, and we moved the camera. So if we needed a wide shot, the entire camera team had to move back in the snow. You know, I think they hated us for it because it was, you know, it was so much work to try and move the camera instead of moving the lens. But there was something that I thought was very interesting. It was that when we were cutting the film, it felt like everything just cut so naturally. Or maybe because it was the same lens. So it didn't feel like it jumped at all. There was something very fluid and very effortless, you know, when you're cutting from scene to scene, shot to shot.
Thanks.
I think it's always an honor, you know, like to be selected. You know, this is the third time, you know, my film has been selected to be represented, you know, as a submission to the Oscars. You know, my first film, Ilo Ilo, my second film, Wet Season, and now with The Breaking Eyes. I think it's good to see that, you know, people value my work, you know, and to be recognized. But, you know, I don't know, I've never, maybe because I've been submitted, you know, 3 times already, like, I don't keep my hopes high, you know. I don't feel like, oh, you know, like maybe I'll get a nomination. For me, I think I've come to a point in my career where I'm just happy that people are connecting with the work. You know, for me, for me, it's very important that my work or what I want to express actually finds an audience. So it moves me a lot more than whether it's an award or like some kind of like, oh, you represent the Oscars or whatever. Like, I think it's, for me, I find it more meaningful whenever, you know, I engage with audiences and I hear that people are connecting and relating to the work, particularly for this film, The Breaking Ice, because it's a film about young people. It's a film that was inspired by all that I was reading and observing about this generation. And for me, it's important that when I hear that they feel deeply about the film and they're connecting with some of the emotions and the issues in the film, and that for me actually, I cherish and I treasure so much more. Of course, that being said, 10 years ago when I won the Camera d'Or, it's still very, very special. I was sort of joking with, the distributor yesterday. You have to remember this. You can, a filmmaker can win the Palme d'Or 3 or 4 times in your life, but you can only win the Camera d'Or once, because you're a virgin only once. You can only make your first film once. So yeah, I think that was a very, very important step in my career, and that was a very special year. I can tell you, because the jury president of the Camera d'Or that year, it's a filmmaker that I greatly admire. She's left us now. It was the great grandmama of the French New Wave. It was Agnès Varda. So it was really special that she acknowledged and she saw the value in the film together with her jury. It was an honor. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was definitely. It definitely is. Yeah, but I think the reason of me making films is not just for festivals or for awards. I need to find more meaning in it, and a lot of times it's about the emotions I want to capture, the human conditions that I want to discover, and eventually it's about how do I connect that with the audience.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. So for me, I find it, for me, I'm very moved, when there are young people that discover this film and they might not have even seen my work before, and they are moved by it, and they're charmed by it, and they connect in a very deep way. I think that would make my day.
Yeah, I agree. When you direct, you must give something of you.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just no for festival.
Yeah,
it's emotion, it's life.
Yeah, and it's personal.
Yes.
For me, filmmaking is personal. It will always be personal. I don't know how to make a film if I can't find something that I connect, in a very, very personal way. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Great.